Brian from Forest River. I'm going to talk about the Suburban water heater. This water heater is a model SW12DE water heater. It's a water heater that's used on most Forest River divisions. In this case, I'm going to be demonstrating this on a Forest River XLR. So first, this is what's known as a flush mount. You want to grab a hold of it here, because if you don't and you pop it open part way, it's only going to be on two little pins here. The door's going to fall off and get damaged. So again, what you want to do is put your finger here under the vent, turn the little knob here, kind of bring it back a little bit. You can grab it with this hand, lift up, and go ahead and pull it off. This is your pin here, and this is the hole. So this hole right here goes onto this pin. This is going to reveal everything that's on the inside of the water heater. This is going to be your model number, and as you can see, it's a model SW12DE. The way you break down the Suburban model numbers is SW is Suburban water heater. The next number is going to be the gallons, which in this case is 12, which means it's 12 gallons. Your D is a DSI ignition, and your E is for electric heating element. So this is going to be known as your ECO and thermostat. ECO stands for emergency cutoff. If the temperature inside gets to be 130 degrees or more, either your 110 side here or your 12 volt side here will trip. If it does trip, all you have to do is push in and you'll reset them. And if you cannot reset them, you don't feel anything given on that, then you want to contact your selling dealership, service center, or Forest River so we can help you figure out what's going on with the water heater. This is your heating element switch. So once this is turned on, it will send VAC power right here to your heating element. That will heat your water using the electric side of your heating element. Now, before you turn this on, make sure there's water inside the tank. Also make sure that your water heater bypass valve is in the normal operation. Now, what's important is any of the Suburban water heaters that are manufactured after 2013, the heating element is made of a material called Incalloy. What Incalloy is, it's very similar to the ranges at home, to where the coils will glow red, just like this will glow red, but it will not dry fire or will not explode or anything. However, if you realize you turn it on by mistake and you don't turn it off and let it cool down for at least 45 minutes to an hour, and you put water in there, you could crack it. So again, very important to make sure if you accidentally have this turned on, make sure you turn it off and make sure it's cooled down before you put any water inside. To know if there's any water inside the water heater, you can slowly lift the pressure relief valve to make sure there's water inside the tank, but you want to be careful because the water coming out of there could be hot, so if you're not careful, you might get scalded. Open it just a little tiny bit till you start feeling a little bit of pressure, and then you'll be able to open it all the way up, and as you can see, there's no water or anything inside the tank. It's set to go off at 150 psi or 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So if it senses the water inside is 210 degrees Fahrenheit, it'll start leaking water out here or pressure out here. If it gets to 150 psi, it'll start leaking water or pressure out here. This is your gas valve assembly. So this is all for your propane side. So this is your gas valve, comes in here, gets mixed with the air, comes out through here and then into your burner tube. Remember that your propane system is controlled by 12 volts, which means 12 volts tells the valve when to open and close and tells the PC board what kind of power to send or what kind of signals to send so that your water heater can operate on propane. This is going to be your water heater bypass valve. So when it's in this up position here, it's in the bypass position, which means your water is bypassing the water heater. So when you're winterizing, you'll go up into the bypass position. When you are in regular normal operation, you want it down in this position so that you can get cold water coming into your water heater and hot water coming out of your water heater. This is going to be the inside parts of your water heater, or these are what the actual water heaters look like before they're installed inside the RV. So this is your DSI board. This has self-stick adhesive right here. So usually we'll either have this stuck to the top part here or somewhere on the floor. This is the other side of the DSI spark igniter that comes out here to light your propane from your PC board. This is very high electricity, so make sure you don't pull this off and touch it or anything, or you will get zapped. This is the back side of your water heater. Down here is where the cold water comes in, your cold water inlet, and this is where your hot water outlet goes on the outside. Your tanks also are insulated with the styrofoam, so your tanks are inside here. The styrofoam helps keep the hot inside, to keep it nice and hot, and also to give it some protection from anything else inside the RV. Okay, these are two samples of anode rods that Suburban recommends using in their water heater. One is magnesium and one is aluminum. Magnesium is the one that comes standard, so if you find that your magnesium anode rod is being deteriorated more rapidly than you think it should, you can actually go to an aluminum one, which will last a little bit longer and not wear down quite as fast as magnesium. Now you can use a Camco brand too if you want to. You do not necessarily have to use a Suburban brand, but what's important is it must be a magnesium or an aluminum anode rod and not an anode rod that has a drain valve built into it, because that will void warranty of the water heater. These are two examples of used anode rods. As you can see, this one here is not too bad. So if this is replaced once a year and it looks like this, you're actually doing pretty good. This one here has got some eaten away on it. Again, Suburban recommends that once this anode rod gets to be 75% or more eaten away, that's when it's time to replace it. So this one would not necessarily have to be replaced yet, but as you can see, it's starting to wear. So if you already had it out, I'd go ahead and replace it with a new one because you already had it out. To remove the anode rod, the first thing you want to do is get yourself an 1/1/16 socket. And again, I'm using a 6-point because I'm dealing with a 6-point head over here. You can get 12 points, but you're going to run the risk of rounding this out if you don't use a 6-point. So I recommend using a 6-point. This is a breaker bar that I have. So when you put this on, you can actually use this breaker bar to break it loose and then unscrew it. When you're going to unscrew it, you go counterclockwise. When you're going to put the new one in, you want to use the torque wrench because the torque spec on this is 24 to 28 foot-pounds to make sure it's properly tight. Now, I'm not going to remove this because this is a brand new water heater. When you do remove the anode rod though, or you're getting ready to remove the anode rod, first thing you want to do is make sure all water is turned off inside the water heater. You want to open the pressure relief valve to relieve any kind of pressure, which as you can hear, we got some pressure in here. We don't have any water in here, just some pressure. And you want to leave this valve open. Once all your water and all your pressure is out, then you can go ahead and remove the anode rod. Again, you would go down counterclockwise, get it loosened up, pull it out, let your water come out because there's going to be water coming out here. Take a look at your anode rod and inspect it. When you're going to put it back in, you want to put a couple rolls of Teflon tape on it, and you want to hand thread it back in. And then once you get a hand threaded back in, use your breaker bar to get it tight. And then once you have it tight, then you can use your torque wrench. The torque wrench, I have it set to 28 foot-pounds. So I'll put this on here, and what'll happen is you'll hear the torque wrench click, and the anode rod will move just a little bit. So that's how you know it's torqued. Once you click and you can still move just a little bit, that's when you stop. You don't want to over tighten this and you don't want to under tighten it. Again, 24 to 28 foot-pounds is what you're looking for. Okay, next I'm going to go in and turn the actual water heater on so you can actually see what happens here when it lights. When it does light, this tube right here will get very, very hot, so make sure you don't touch it. But you'll be able to see the flame and hear the roar once the DSI board tells the gas valve to open. It does the ignition part and the propane gets lit. You can see that once the propane ignites, it actually starts heating up and it will start heating your water. I'm going to show how to light the water heater from inside. Again, this is going to be on your propane side. First, you want to make sure your water pump is turned on. Make sure you do have water. The way you can check that is go to your spigots, open your hot water spigot, and see if you got water coming through there. And then what you're going to do is turn your water heater switch on. You'll notice this light right here, and this is what's known as a DSI fault light. So what happens is your board is what's called a 3-try board, which means it'll try to light 3 times before it goes into lockout. So when your water heater does light, this DSI fault light will go out, which you saw it went out, which means your water heater is lit and it's running. So anytime your water heater switch is in the on position and your DSI fault light is off, that means your water heater is operating fine and you don't have any worries. The only worry you would have is if this was in the on position and this DSI fault light stays on, that's telling you that there's a problem on your propane side. Regarding the electric side, you want to make sure that your distribution panel, which this is a 50 amp distribution panel, make sure your water heater breaker is turned on. WH stands for water heater, so make sure that this breaker is in the on position Otherwise, the heating element switch outside on the water heater will not operate. So this should kind of give you a better overview of your Suburban water heater on how it operates on electric and gas. If you have any further questions, contact your Forest River selling dealership, or you can contact Forest River by using the Contact Us at www.forestriverinc.com and ask any other questions you might have. But again, first contact your Forest River dealer because they may be able to help you out and do some hands-on with you while you're there at the dealership or while you're in there asking questions.